it has been said by a few sources that the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Mets might be in conversations to trade Vlad Guerrero Jr. to the New York Mets, as the New York Mets have not gotten Pete Alonso yet. David, what do you think about this?
This is interesting. I look at this and say, would I rather give up a bunch or give up anything for a great player? Vladdy is an incredible player. Or just pay the man his money for the dude you already know and the dude you already like and the guy who is incredibly consistent. And maybe I'm just crazy here. Maybe I just want to say this and no one else believes me, but Alonso's hit more home runs than Vladdy. And I think he's a better first baseman, and I think he's probably a better all-around player for the Mets, since he's the guy they know, the guy they have, and they've had a lot of success with him there. It blows my mind. Why pay for a rental? Why pay a whole bunch of players for a rental when you can just sign the guy you have and you like? And I get it. Vladdy's younger. Vladdy's incredibly talented, but we also know Vladdy's a little this. He's really good and really, and this year he started out cold and then he ended up being amazing at the end. And I'm like, okay, what has Vladdy brought to the Toronto Blue Jays? What have they done? They've done absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing since he's been there. I know it's not all on him by any means. He's done his part of it. And he's had a one incredible year and one very good year. But Alonso's been insanely consistent. And Alonso's bad year, his horrible year this year, would still be an average to decent year for Vladdy.
Call me a conspiracy theorist, but I believe that this whole thing is just a ruse by the New York Mets to say, hey, we might be exploring other options. Pete, you want to stay here? Now's the time. And of course, last night, John Heyman, probably because Scott Boras told them to, sent out a tweet that the Mets and Pete Alonso are making progress on a 3-year deal, but they are still having problems figuring out how much cash. None of this surprises me. I have a feeling the Mets are using Vlad Guerrero as leverage so they can finally close this deal with Pete Alonso. We know they want him. Pete Alonso wants to be there. And he'll get an opt-out after 1 year, and if he decides to opt out, that's when the Mets are going to pounce on Vladdy. I agree with you. I don't think there's any reason why they have to go out and sell a whole bunch of guys from their farm system to get a rental, unless there is a window for exclusive negotiations with Vladdy, and then that's a completely different story.
So, they would, even if they would bring him in, right? The Mets would be paying almost $29 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's basically Alonso. Okay, so it's almost a wash. Plus, it's a 1-year player where Alonso you're going to get 3 to 5 or whatever that contract's going to end up being, 3 with the options, whatever Heyman's talking about. I agree with you on the idea that the Mets use this to push Alonso ahead, to give Alonso a little punch, right? Because who else are they going to use against him? A lot of the first baseman market's already gone. So I do like this. I think that's a very smart move. At the same time, don't get me wrong, if you don't like Alonso and you don't want to pay for him and you don't get him, Vladdy's not the worst option in the world. It's not like you're complaining having Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on that team, especially with the team you've built, with Soto, Lindor, and everybody, that the whole feeling of the Latin feeling of that clubhouse last year. Mm-hmm. It's not the worst thing in the world, right? Trust me, I would absolutely take, probably, given the age and everything, I'd probably take Vladdy over Alonso in a long term, but you're never going to get Vladdy for the amount of money and maybe questions on the consistency like you have with Alonso.
Here's the question. Is there any chance that the Mets get both Alonso and Vlad? They still need a DH.
Ooh.
I mean, if they're talking about getting Vlad, and then
can they afford it with the Soto deal? And I know Verlander and Scherzer now are off the books, right?
Mm-hmm. They're $40 million or around $40 million below where the salary was,
That
where they
that
were
just
last year.
becomes an incredible lineup. I don't know how many games I win because I have got no one to pitch for me. And I don't think you care with that lineup. That's the old Texas Rangers mentality. Who cares who's throwing? You got the greatest lineup in the world. But it didn't work out for the Rangers. It didn't work out. And the one thing we know about playoffs, I don't care how great your offense is. I need like 3 horses and 3 bullpen guys. And they don't have horses.
There's gonna be someone available at the trade deadline. Get that lineup.
Who do you have to trade, James? You're giving them all up for Vladdy. That's my problem here. Like Dave Stearns is incredible. Everything he did with Milwaukee is amazing. What he's building right now with the Mets, I'm on board, dude. I give everybody, especially like presidents, I give them 3-4 years. I don't give managers. You got to show me some love that first year. Second year, you better produce. Third year, you're either out. Now, presidents, I give you 4 years. I got to see a progress because you're not going to see the prospects. You're not going to see the minor league system develop. That first draft is incredibly important. Second draft, huge. But by that third, fourth year, you're going to see some of those players come up, and you're going to see changes in your organization. But you've got nothing right now from a pitching staff standpoint, like a starting rotation staff. You lost all. You hit gold last year. Just absolute gold in getting a couple guys and just recovering their careers. But you have none of that right now. But you have a lineup. You do have a lineup, and you swapped Soto for Alonso, right, so far. So unless you're going to just absolutely hit gold again with all this lineup just going crazy and just like nobody on their starting pitching staff. Here's the thing. While they had all these crazy starting pitchers do amazing last year, those guys did have a track record in the past of being really, really successful at one point in their career. Every one of those guys. They don't have that right now. So what are you going to do? Like they don't have 4 guys that they can look at and go, okay, at least at one point, every one of these guys were the best. Like every one of them were really good at one point. And then they hit gold again. But now like we're looking at that rotation going like
I think you're underselling them a little bit.
You can only hit gold so many times, my man.
Well, they have Manaea coming back. If Kodai Senga is healthy, he's a very, very good pitcher.
Giant if.
Yeah. You still have David Peterson, but I'm not talking. I don't want to talk about. They're okay. They're not great.
Clay Holmes. I dig Clay Holmes. Don't get me wrong. Like
you got Clay Holmes. You got Blackburn coming back. You still have Montas, you have Tyler McGill, you have arms. Are they great? No, but if you have a great lineup and then later on you go and get yourself a pitcher at the trade deadline, I think they'd be okay. My whole thing is you mentioned that Vlad Guerrero, it's going to cost a lot. I don't think it's going to cost you as much as you think because it's a 1-year rental and there's very few teams that are going to go out there and give up the farm for him because there's not that many teams who are really going to be in contention who need Vlad. That's number one. And number two, those teams, they can't afford him. So they're not going to go crazy trading for someone that they can't keep. When the Yankees traded for Juan Soto, they gave up what they did, but they thought that they had a legitimate chance to keep him, which they did. They came in number 2 in the bidding or whatever. You may have a much easier time with Vlad, who's only looking for about 400, which is funny to say only 400.
No, he's going to end up getting now I don't know with first baseman and DH stuff. I don't know what they're going to get. It's crazy the pay disparity, right? So you have this like Ohtani, the $700 million. I get it, but he's like the unicorn. But then you're Soto because you play right field and you're average to below average defender, young, great numbers, but like you got guys that are comparable from an offensive standpoint. But because they play first base, which I actually think is a way more important defensive position, a much more important defensive position, and you're going to pay them that much less for production. It's a weird spot for me that everybody just pretty consistent on the numbers here on what like Alonso should be making. He's as productive. He's one step below Aaron Judge on production. And it kind of blows my mind that we just blow him out of the water. Like, oh, it's like, like whatever, the polar bear.
David, the Mets are playing hardball because there's nobody else who wants him right now.
That's what I'm wondering. That's my bigger question is like, my biggest problem here, I think that he ran into his free agency year on a heavy first baseman market free agency year. Now, I don't know who's going to be free agents next year for Vladdy. And he might be, I'll look at it, right? I'll look at it as we're talking, but he might be the only big first baseman free agent unless Alonso gets this deal with where he can walk out. But I think that was actually the thing that hurt Alonso more than anything else. Is I'm sitting here and I'm going, wait, I got Paul Goldschmidt right here. Like, I'll take Paul Goldschmidt for a year for lesser money. Wait, I can get Christian Walker, who's been a 30+ home run guy. Okay, like I can get way less. Okay, I'll take that. And so there's other things you can do here. You can go trade for Naylor. Like what the Diamondbacks did to go get Naylor was incredible on that trade. I don't sit there and think he's on a Walker or Alonso level, but his production wise, he's done it. And so I think Alonso, all the conversation behind Alonso, a lot of that has to do with actually the market showing that there's so many other options. And Vladdy, don't get me wrong, I'll take Vladdy on the long term versus Alonso because of age. But if they were sitting at the same age and Alonso was 28 and Vladdy's 28, I might take Alonso just because he's been consistent. I know what I'm getting every single year. Now, the peaks might not be as high, but you know what? Alonso's peak was pretty close to Vladdy's peak.
It looks to me as if the Mets really only want Alonso for 1 year, and then they're going to go after Vladdy next year. That's what it looks like, because every report is saying, hey, we'll give you a 3-year deal. You can have an opt-out after the first.
Give him 35 for the first year, right? Because he's worth 35 million. I'm sorry, he's worth 35 million.
You're worth what somebody's willing to give you, and there's nobody willing to give him anything right now. That's the problem. Think about all the teams that have an opportunity to get him right now at a very reasonable deal. You're talking about, people are saying 3 years, 100 million. There should be a lot more teams going out there and getting that, but nobody's offering it to him. So if you're the Mets, why are you going to give him 35 when nobody's giving him 30?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to speak for you. My idea is it's going to be Pete at first base this year, and then next year the Mets are going to go out and get Vlad. That's what I think is going to happen. Would I love to see both of them? I would love it. Not going to happen, though, Met fans.